Well, this is a very, very exciting time in Macon, Georgia. There are a whole lot of good things going on in the community, and I think there's a better and a fresher spirit that's going. Although we got problems, but it seems that we're headed in the right direction with the new tractor company and some new political moves and what have you. So I thought it would be fitting if we have a conversation with the chairman of the Board of Commissioners about where he sees the community right now and where he would like for it to go. So I'm more than a little pleased to have with me Mr. Sam Hart, Sr., who's the chairman of the Board of the County Commissioners. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well, and
welcome to the show. Yeah, you're welcome. This is a call to action.
A call to action.
This is a call to action.
A call to action.
And I'm your host, Alex HABERSHAM. Thanks for joining us. I guess we ought to begin by just acknowledging Commissioner Larry Justice.
A fine person.
Yeah, who passed, I guess, yesterday. So I just think that I would like to, and I'm sure you will join me in paying our respects to his family and acknowledging the contributions that he made to Bibb County and Central Georgia for a long time. And I didn't know that you served with him.
I had an opportunity to serve with Larry, and it was one of the pleasant experience of being a county commissioner. I had 4 years that I served with Larry, and Larry was a fine public servant who devoted over 30 years to this community. But he also extended his services outside of this community. He provided services through the Association of County Commissioners to the entire state.
Right.
And I think he even served on the national board.
Right.
So Larry was very well respected in county government.
And he was a good friend of mine also. We're going to talk about three things, unless I add something. I want to talk some about the T-SPLOST, although it did not pass, but maybe what kind of steps we can take, to assure that we continue to move forward in spite of our not getting the advantage of, the revenue that it would have brought. I want to talk some about consolidation and, what we need to do as a result of the citizens having voted for. And I want to talk some about economic development and where you see this community as it relates to moving forward with economic development. Before you start talking, and I say this all the time, people in Atlanta say, what's wrong with you folk down there in Macon, Georgia? Y'all got 1675 and universities and water. We're the prime location for the location of industry and things of that nature. And I think that much of the progress that we make or don't make is attributable to leadership. And just talk about what you've done as it relates to leadership in trying to make the community move forward without talking about consolidation. Then we'll move into consolidation.
I think you're exactly right. As Kirby Gotcha loves to say, is that we got the gift of geography, and yet we've not taken advantage of that gift of geography in terms of our location. And a lot of that has been because we've not been perceived as a community that works together. So I think when I was first elected, one of the things that I coined was the fact of let's think community. Let's not think city, let's not think county, but let's think community. What is best for our community? And so what I've tried to do is bring people together and let's think again, put our heads together to see if we can't move this community forward. And in moving it forward, it means that, again, we ought to bring all those people who got various responsibilities for things already in this community. Let's not try to do that job, but let's try to get them to do that job in collaboration with us.
Right.
And so that's what we spent some time doing, is working closely with the Industrial Authority, working closely with MEDC, working closely with the city and other county commissioners, and even to look and think regionally to see how can we do things that would benefit this community and work together to make sure it happens in our community. And if it doesn't happen directly in our community, happen close to us so we can benefit from the taxes. And we've had some luck. As a matter of fact, some of what you heard out of Atlanta is what we heard from developers. They said to us is that, you know, in the past, we pretty much have written you guys off.
Wow.
You guys didn't have your act together. You weren't doing anything. You weren't working together. You were always hassling between governments. And so we had written you off and decided that we were going to take our business elsewhere. And so, as you know, we had not gotten very much lately. But he said, over the last couple of years, we've seen a different be of kind and a different making. That you guys seem to have your act together. You're working together, and you're back on. And so we're trying to bring some things here now. Result, Tractor Supply. And I think that's just one of, hopefully, many more things to come. I mean, you know, so we got some positive momentum, and we just need to build on it.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. And I think that a couple other things I want to mention, and one of which is the fact that they are dredging that hopefully, and I didn't know they had opposition to the thing, the Savannah River, yes, you know, to get the largest ships in here. And then a lot of people are saying that if they can bring the bigger ships, you know, they got to take that cargo somewhere. They can't leave it all in Savannah, so there's a phenomenal opportunity for distribution centers in Central Georgia. And I kind of tie that in and talk a little bit of, well, let me back up a little bit. The thing I want to do, I want to commend you and the mayor. I think that sent a good signal that the two of you were working together and, you know, trying to pull this community together, although you represented two segments of the government. But I think your working together played a major role in moving us forward. And I talk a little bit about consolidation. You know, it was a hot issue. You know, there were people on both sides. But now that it has passed, you know, we're not going to look at it as spilled milk.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to look at it as honey in the beehive. So how can we get that honey out of that beehive? And what is that honey that we can take consolidation and move this community forward?
Well, I like the way you put it.
Yeah.
I think, again, the people have spoken. And what they said is they want to consolidate this government and move us forward. And I think, again, I'll be a part of the transition team. The mayor will be a part of the transition team. And I think what we got to do is to see, again, if we can't make silk out of cotton and move forward and see if we can't put this community together in a fashion that will put us in a place for further economic development, a more efficient government, but again, a better perceived government around the entire state and around the entire nation. I think we got a grand opportunity, and while the consolidation bill that we saw was not perfect, it was an adequate bill, and hopefully it can be tweaked, I think it can, to make it work for the betterment of our community. And so I'm looking forward to working with people, and certainly we want to make sure we got an adequate, diverse team together at the table to put this thing together. And I'm hoping, again, what we'll bring is a positive attitude, and to say, look here, here's what we got, people spoken, let's make this thing work, and let's work together to make it work. I think that's going to be important. Now, this community needs to be healed.
Yes.
It needs healing, and we don't need to, again, to continue to divide ourselves.
The other thing that I think that you would want to do, and correct me if I'm wrong, is to encourage people to engage in the process. You know, if in fact there are some concerns, or if people would like to see this happen or that happen, then I'm sure that the transition team will make an effort not only to be open but also transparent. I was talking about with somebody today, and you know, some of these meetings maybe can be held, you know, at City Hall, not for everybody to talk, but so people at least can see the process and understand the process and buy in the process, and that should be a mechanism for citizens to express, you know, their concerns and what they would want to see.
Well, I think you're right. It ought to be transparent. It ought to be an opportunity for people to come, and certainly you won't have input in voice, but you certainly ought to be able to listen, and then by listening, you can, again, have voice by talking into your representative to make sure they represent your concerns. And I think that's a kind of process that I'm going to push for. is to make sure that it's transparent and that people, while not getting a direct voice, will have an indirect voice in terms of making sure that concerns that they have are addressed, and that we come out with something that addresses the entire community, because that's important. This is our government,
right,
and we ought to have some input in
it. Let's jump ship for a minute to the T-SPLOST. There are, in having an earlier conversation with you, there are a couple of things that must happen, although the T-SPLOST failed, in order to kind of keep us in the direction of moving forward. What would those two things be?
I think there are a couple of things that need to happen that will have tremendous impact on our economic development. You talked about Savannah River being dredged and having larger ships, and so cargo is going to start coming from that area. It has to go somewhere, and certainly we are a prime location for it to happen. We got Browson Yard, which is a large switching area where we can do some things. We got the potential of doing something with our airport in terms of expanding that runway and becoming a cargo center. And so those are two great places. But what we had built into the T-SPLOST were to do something with expanding the runway, but also to see if we can make a connection between I-16 and 75 and Solid Church Road, where we have our airport.
Right.
And I think we got to find some other ways to do that. T-SPLOST failed, but those are two things for economic development and to become the center that we were talking about, the hub for distribution and those kind of things. Then we got to put in place those ways to do that. So we're going to have to look for alternatives to do that, and it could be that we look for bonds and put it in another, if not a T-SPLOST, but another special purpose local option sales tax that we can do the same thing. The other thing is that in terms of trying to build that connection between Solid Church Road and I-16 and 75, then we got to work with adjoining counties. So, you know, in spite of some of these counties not passing it, we still need to maintain a relationship with them, because these counties are important in making it happen. So we got to make sure we bridge whatever problems we have with Houston County in terms of not. We got to keep that relationship close. We got to do the same thing with Tweeds, because those are two important counties to make this connection. And I think all of us benefit. And we've had opportunities through the encroachment thing to work very closely with Houston. So I don't anticipate any issues and problems with, again, being able to work closely with them again to look at the economic development that would benefit both counties, well, all three counties, Twiggs, Houston, and Bill, in those kind of things. But we lost the T-SPLOST, but we still got some great opportunities to work collaboratively and to make sure that we had a kind of economic development for our area. And you mentioned, boy, we could be the hub for distribution.
Wow. This is a call to action.
A call to action.
I'm your host, Alex HABERSHAM, sitting here with Chairman of the County Commissioner, Sam Hart. Let me ask you another question, quickly. I read an editorial that you wrote in the newspaper in response, I guess, to something. What drives you? I mean, you know, you've been on the commissioners, the board, what, 12 years?
Yeah.
12 years, and we're not going to get political, so I don't want to know what your intentions are. But up to this point, what has driven you, and to the point of whether you're this kind of public servant, and the last time I checked, you don't make Forrest Johnson money, you know, and being the commissioner. So what drives you?
I think what drives me is the belief that I think I can make a difference. That I think, again, that this is a community that has potential. And I think, though, it needs to bring people together. So I'm a consensus builder. That's who I am. I mean, that's, you know, I don't shout, I don't, but I think I can bring people together and get things done. And so I think what drives me is that I think I've been successful at getting that done. If you go back and look at the record that I have in terms of looking at things that have come to our community, looking at, boy, they had worked for years trying to get the service delivery strategy done. We got it done. And I think it's because, again, the way I work with people in terms of looking at the how it would benefit the community rather than how it benefits Sam Hart. So I'm not looking for credit. I'm looking to make it happen.
Right.
And I think the fact that I think I can make it happen, it continues to drive me to want to continue to be in the public arena.
Outstanding. Okay, let's reverse it a little. What would you like to see the community do in order to participate more, and what kind of role? And I want everybody to listen to me, you know, because it takes a village not only to raise a child, but it takes a village to have a successful community. What would you like to see from the organizations, the institutions, the individuals in this community to help continue this impetus?
I think for us to be a better community, it's going to really take a tremendous amount of public involvement, which means, again, that, you know, certainly we ought to come out and vote. We ought to vote in a much larger percentage than we vote, so that, again, when you are elected, you're elected by a real majority of the community.
Right.
Secondly, I think the community ought to hold us responsible. So when we are having and holding public hearings and listening sessions, as we call them, then they ought to come and hear us and say, you know, here's some things that I'm concerned about, so that you know that you're representing people. And thirdly, I think what we got to do is to make sure that people who are serving on these various boards and authorities are people who from the diversity of our community, so that we don't have to just look for folk, but people are sending us resumes and saying, I want to do this. And there are a lot of opportunities for service, but you need to let us know that you have an interest in doing that. And I think that's even a fourth thing, that again, you want to make sure that as you look at all the opportunities for involvement, that people are coming to our various meetings and listening to make sure, again, that they get some sense of what you're doing every day and hold you accountable. And there's even a fifth one. I think as we look at things that we're asking folk to do, like right now, we're talking about how do we keep our community clean? Well, keeping the community clean isn't just a part of the government, it's all of our responsibility. So you can look for collaborative groups and clubs and other things who want to adopt streets and want to do various kinds of things. Here's an opportunity to do that. Help us keep it clean. Now, we ought to coordinate it from our end, and so we've got something like Keep Making Build Beautiful can coordinate it. But in terms of people getting involved, it ought to be all of us adopting streets and adopting communities and being willing to do that. And I think so. There's a tremendous opportunity out there for people to get involved and stay involved and to hold government accountable. But it's a working together. It's a collaborative effort, not just sitting back and pointing fingers and pointing blame, because we can do that.
Right.
But I think to make it happen and make it for a better community, it takes all of us.
Right. I heard about something that you qualified for the other day, which is an age-friendly community. Talk a little bit about that.
Oh, good gosh, a designation that, boy, I'm proud of, and I think you know a lady who helped to make that happen. A strong volunteer in the area, but Ms. Merle HABERSHAM, who helped to make that happen, is a strong volunteer for that. But it's a excellent designation for our community, and it comes at a great time for our community. But it's, you know, when you think about age friendly, when they first told me about it, I thought they talked about people with hair like mine, and they are. But they also talking about it, you know, as you do things for the community that would benefit me, but it also benefit a 4-year-old kid and whatever. So there are things that you can do as relates to making sure you got your lights sitting together. You can look at accommodation in new buildings that you're doing. Make sure that those things accommodate all ages. And it comes at a great time for this community. As you know, we passed a SPLOST a couple of years back, and we have a lot of buildings we'll be renovating, public buildings we'll be renovating, and some that we'll be building new. And we had an opportunity through that age-friendly designation for them to bring somebody down to tell us how we can accommodate some of those things in some of the renovations we were doing. So it was very timely.
Right.
But we got national publicity out of that thing. So I'm telling you, we're grateful for that.
Okay, you mentioned SPLOST. Talk a little bit about, you know, where that is and where you're going and what's the purpose of it and timeline and stuff like that?
Well, the community did us a great service. We had a difficult time passing the SPLOST in our area, and this one passed by 73%.
Wow.
I mean, so we got lucky, and the community really stepped up to the plate and supported us on it. So to bring over $200 million to this community for us to improve infrastructure, but it also enabled us to keep taxes down. That because we were able to do some things like the 800 megahertz, which would allow all the first responders in emergency situations to communicate and to be on the same page. We were able to do that without having to do it from the general fund. We were able to build new fire stations and keep the rating that we currently got so that the insurance costs would be down. So we are currently building a new fire station, but more important, building three new fire stations, building a juvenile center, where we're taking currently the youth are heard in this facility here, and they're among adults. And on Friday, you can't hardly get in there,
wow,
and you're crossing each other. So we'll be able to pull them out and put them in a campus-like environment where we can do intervention and hopefully put them back into productive situations in the school and whatever, a little bit quicker than what we're currently doing. But the real important deal is an economic stimulus to our community, that we are putting most of those dollars through local vendors who will have an opportunity to either provide supplies to us or actually do work. And so we're putting our people back to work because we're trying to make sure that we use as much of that money as possible locally.
And some of it was dedicated to recreation too, wasn't it?
$40 million we'll be spending on recreation activities.
Wow.
And what we're doing is we're hoping again that we'll bring a consultant in to see if we can't use it in a manner that would help us to impact some of our district problems. Work with the school system to see if we can't do and get involved in some of the after-school programs. Looking and working with folks to see if we can expand the use of technology and have places for homework activities for kids after school. So we don't want to rebuild those centers so that it's just basketball and baseball. We think those things are important, but certainly we want to do more so that community centers and have a little bit more impact on the character and building for some of our kids.
This is a call to action.
A call to action.
And I'm your host, Alex HABERSHAM, interviewing Commission Chairman Sam Hart. And we are just about to wrap up this interview. I want to thank you, man, not only for this interview, but I want to thank you for your public service. You're a very, very conscientious public servant, and you've been, as far as I can tell, very effective. You've got a different manner, but it works.
Thank you.
You know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So are there any parting statements that you would like to make?
No, other than the opportunity to sit there and share with the public that we'll enter in a new day, but it can be bright if we work together.
We appreciate your openness about the consolidation and the transition team. And what I'd like to do in a couple of months, maybe we can have you back on so we can keep the community informed on what's going on and how maybe they can help us assist you and the team in making this thing work for everybody. Because I've heard you say that, you know, think community, you know, think everybody, think neighborhood, think participation. So we'll have you back on real soon.
Look forward to it, and it certainly will add to the transparency that we talked about.
Okay, this is a call to action.
A call to action.
I'm your host, Alex HABERSHAM. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Alex HABERSHAM, your host for A Call to Action. And we want to encourage everybody, whenever possible, to listen to our show. We're very, very concerned about affecting in a positive manner the social, political, economic, educational, spiritual development of our community. And what we attempt to do is to impart good, positive information, not only just impart the information, but to give everyone a clue on the role that each of us can play in making this a better community. I think that if we all work together, if we're all informed, if we all understand that there's no job too small for us to assist with, then collectively we will make this a better community and build it to the extent that it can be. We've got the gift of geography, and we've got other gifts. We've got the gifts of education and the gifts of people and all other kinds of resources. All we have to do is kind of pull them together, and what a call to action does is try to give you some of those steps that you can take so you can take action. This is a call to action.
www.makingblackpages.com